Not a month ago, the Democrats and Republicans joined together here on this floor to pass bipartisan legislation to provide for much better security at the border, and to make sure that folks from other countries who have a desire to work, ability to work, they're not a threat to our safety or security, they could provide be provided an opportunity to help make this a better country. It's a bipartisan vote, Democrat and Republicans. I just want to commend the Republicans who joined the Democrats in voting for it. The legislation has died in the House, at least for now, and my hope is that the House will see fit to join us in the Senate to pass common sense, much needed border security legislation. Having said that, Mr. President, I arrived today I came here today to talk about the passage in the Senate earlier this week of the Recycling Composting Accountability Act and the Recycling Infrastructure and Accessibility Act of 2023. Two pieces of bipartisan legislation that, if enacted, will improve our nation's recycling and our nation's composting systems. As a number of our colleagues know, I care a lot about recycling, I care a lot about composting. I have ever since I was a kid. In fact, I think in our home in Wilmington, Delaware, we've recycled everything in recent years, from a dehumidifier in our basement and a Ford Explorer out in our driveway. And then we recycle a whole lot more. We do it every week. And I know a lot of other folks in our neighborhood, a lot of other folks in our state do so as well. But in our country, we can always do everything better. Always do things better, and we need to. During my time in the U.S. Senate, I've looked for and I've found many opportunities for bipartisan support of policies that boost recycling, that boost composting. And as my colleagues on this floor have heard me say many, many times, bipartisan solutions are lasting solutions. I believe that with every fiber of my being. To that end, earlier this Congress, Senator Capito, a ranking member of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, and along with Senator John Boozman from Arkansas, and I worked to advance bipartisan legislation through our committee, through the Committee on Environment and Public Works, that would strengthen our nation's recycling, composting, and sustainability efforts. Moreover, we know that recycling is a win-win. Why do I say that? It not only benefits our environment, but it also creates economic opportunity, creates a lot of jobs. A whole lot of jobs, not just in Delaware, but in every state across the country. When enacted, the Recycling and Composting Accountability Act and the Recycling Infrastructure and Accessibility Act of 2023 will address several of the challenges that America's recycling efforts currently face, including the lack of good data, including limited access to recycling programs in too many parts of our country. To increase the amount of high-quality data available on recycling efforts across America, Senator Boozman and I developed a legislation called the Recycling and Composting Accountability Act. Our bill would improve the Environmental Protection Agency's ability to gather data on this nation's recycling systems and explore opportunities for implementing a national composting strategy. Well, so some people probably say, what is composting? And why is that important? Well, I'm excited about the idea of a national composting strategy, because implementing such a strategy will help us reduce food waste, which is responsible for over half, that's right, over half of our planet's warming methane emissions that emanate from landfills. I'll say that again. I'm excited about the idea of national composting strategy. Why? Because implementing such a strategy will help us reduce food waste. Food waste is responsible for over half, that's right, over half of our planet warming methane emissions that emanate from landfills. To increase access to recycling programs, Senator Capito, Senator Boozman, and I introduced the Recycling Infrastructure and Accessibility Act of 2023. Why did we do that? To create a pilot program at EPA to help expand recycling services in underserved areas. Many Americans in rural and underserved communities want to recycle. They want to compost, but they're unable to do so because they live in areas that lack the necessary recycling infrastructure, including curbside pickup or community collection centers. In comparison to our neighbors, how are we doing? I have a friend who asks me how he's doing. He says, compared to what? Well, why don't we compare ourselves to Canada and maybe Germany? Well, compared to Canada. Compared to Canada, we've got a lot of work to do. For example, British Columbia, our neighbors to the north, they're currently recycling 86% of their residential waste, 86%. And across to the pond over in Germany, they're recycling almost half, 48% to be exact, of their waste. Yep, 48%. I wish I could say that we're doing as well, but unfortunately today in America, our national recycling rate is not even a third. It's just under that, 32%. We can do better than that. We've got to do better than that. And these two bills will help us to improve our recycling efforts to make the goal set by EPA to increase the U.S. recycling efforts, bring it up to 50% by year 2030. I think people given a choice would like to recycle them. They like to compost more, and we've got to make it easy for them to do. Both of the bills that I've mentioned are the results of true collaboration and reflect a bipartisan commitment to exploring and addressing our nation's recycling and composting challenges and opportunities. We have a moral duty to leave behind a cleaner, healthier planet for future generations, and that's a belief I know is shared by most Americans. Now that the Senate has passed both of these bills, I welcome all of our House colleagues to join us in this effort. And I want to say to the presiding officer who's presiding, my colleague from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a member of the Senate Committee on the Environment and Public Works, I want to thank him for being part of the effort that has enabled us to bring this legislation to the floor. I believe without opposition. I believe without opposition and with the total bipartisan support of the Democrat and Republican members. And hopefully we'll be able to convince our friends over in the House that we come up with some pretty good ideas over here in the Senate from time to time. And these are a couple of them. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.